Hello there guys, welcome back to my little art channel. Today I'm going to be talking about watercolor paper and my experiences, and we're going to be opening this together, and I'm going to just explain how I came to be with this giant roll of watercolor paper. Going back a couple years now, I was having a bit of trouble with my paper. I'd always bought reasonably nice brands, but a little more on the affordable side, and I didn't know a whole lot about my supplies. So I did a little research as to why I was having trouble with my paper, and it turns out my paper, I don't think it was 100% cotton, which is what you need for good watercolor paper. So then I figured it was time to do my own research and figure out what brand I wanted to use mostly going forward and what would work best for my art style. So I then spent a little while researching and watching videos of people comparing different watercolor papers, and I found that the Arches paper, forgive me if I'm pronouncing this wrong, but this is just the way I always say it in my head. So from my researching and the videos and reviews I'd watched, it seemed to be pretty much top tier, the best brand, and there were some other ones that were about the same but more expensive. I looked into the paper, the brand. It is made in France and they've been around since the 15th century, so we're talking medieval or Renaissance times, right? Just a very traditional brand, made the old way, 100% cotton. Seemed to just have really good values for the paper and stand the test of time. And of course, I know it's one of the most popular watercolor paper brands. So anyway, that's the brand I decided to go with. And now it was just about determining my paper type that I would want to use going forward. I knew I didn't really want a rough paper. I wanted something a little smoother, but I was deciding between cold pressed and hot pressed paper. There's a different method when it comes to making those papers, and how that manifests in the paper is pretty much cold pressed has a little bumpier texture, but quite smooth bumps, and then hot pressed is a lot smoother and flatter. I ended up actually buying a sample pack of the cold pressed and hot pressed paper from this brand, and as I had thought going into it, the hot pressed was the one that suits my style better and I prefer to use for a number of different reasons. I like the smoother texture. So the Arches hot press paper is the one that I've been using for the last few years, and I have been buying these, which are quite expensive. The price that I usually get it, I think it's around about $48–50 for 12 sheets of A4 paper. I think it's about $4 a sheet of A4 paper. And maybe a year ago now, I was watching this lady's video talking about Arches paper that she uses and how she likes to buy these big rolls of it because you get it cheaper, you know, per square inch. And this idea very much appealed to me. I ended up doing the research, and it's around about $2.40, $2.60 a sheet instead of $4, so half to 2/3 of the price. So that's me getting my watercolor paper quite a bit cheaper. And I knew which brand and type I wanted now, so it wasn't a matter of figuring that out. It was the beginning of this year and I realized I was all out of my pads of paper. I found the cheapest place that I could buy the big roll of paper, and I bought it. I have it now, and it's time to open it up and take a look and cut some paper. Another couple benefits of having the large roll, you can cut your own sizes, so I don't have to just have the A4 size. I can go larger. I can make them fit in like Tetris all together and customize my sizes a little more. And instead of having the sharp cut edges of the pads of paper, I can actually rip these to make the nice soft deckled edges, which I think will be very pretty. And I also much prefer to make one large purchase, and then for years and years I can act like this paper is free as the sunshine. Delude myself into thinking this is just free paper that I have. And I feel a lot more free when I go to paying and not like my precious expensive paper, and it just makes me happier. First thing to do, I guess, is just open the box. Now, of course, one of the possible downsides of this is that it's more effort. When you want to cut more paper, you have to do it yourself, measure it properly, and it's all going to be rolled up, so I'm going to have to figure out a way to flatten it nicely. Oh my gosh. Ooh, it's all wrapped in a nice package. That's good, and this is bubble wrap. I'll probably keep it in this box. This can be its home so it doesn't get dented. Here's how it comes in a big roll. Here's a big roll of many meters of special paper. I guess what I might do is just open it, and I've cleared this big area so I can unroll a little bit and look at it. I really don't want to cut through the paper. Here's our paper. Ooh. Good. It seems like the good side is here and the bad side is going to be up when I unroll it, which is good because then I can mark it and not be too precious about it while I'm cutting them out. I've got these reasonably heavy, very clean books that I'm going to weigh it down with as I unroll the paper. Okay, I have it weighed down with my books, and now you see I can mark it and cut out some pieces, but it is tricky with it all rolled up like that. I thought this paper here might go all through the roll, but it doesn't, which is fair enough, but that just means I have to be careful with this not to mark it too much, because this is the outside of that, and I'm pretty sure this is the underside of the paper. So I'm just gonna think for a moment now about what size I want to cut my first piece at. Now, I'd forgotten where exactly I can fit my A4 pieces, so I've just been calculating it, and it looks like if I do them long ways, like a big long A4 this way, I can't really fit 4, it's more like 3.8. So I'm going to do it the other way, A4 piece going this way, like side by side with their long sides together. And then I think I can get like 5 across, but then there'll just be a little bit extra on the end. The plan is to try to rip it, because the paper's already got these lovely deckled, jagged edges, and I want to keep that going in my nice original paintings. I think for the commission that I'm doing next, especially, that they would really like it to have that old-fashioned edge. But it will possibly be tricky, so I'm going to make sure I really know what I'm doing before I start ripping. And it probably is best on a flat, like hard surface. I'm doing it on the floor, but I don't really have a table big enough, I don't think. But I'm just going to start off by measuring the one line across to cut it so I can work with them in more manageable pieces, and I'm going to use this to get my straight line. What I'm going to do is just rip it along this line now. I've got this metal ruler, which is quite handy because it's got an extra side to hold on to. I'm hoping this works nicely even though it's on the carpet rather than a table. On the outside of that line, hold it down very firmly. It actually rips more easily than you would think. You've just kind of got to be bold with it. It's working, that's great. It's a little awkward not sitting on top of it while I position myself. It really does rip very nicely. Okay, I cut my piece off lengthways so I can put the rest of this away for now. And then I'm going to cut this into, I think, just A4 pieces until I get to the end, and then I'll see what kind of size I want. As you can see, the ripping went really smoothly until I got to here. I had a little trouble. I started to come inwards a little bit. You can see it jagged. So then I went off and I started from this side, and you can see I had a little trouble here, and I fixed it up, it seems, by the end. I don't think it's such a big deal. I do think it gives a bit of a rustic charm to the edge of the paper, but I would like to perfect my ripping skills to make sure I do it well. So if I had my ruler here, and let's just say my hand is holding it here, and I'm pulling my paper just kind of up and away, it tended to go a little bit more, do its own thing. I had to make sure I'm pulling it a little bit more this way, like against my ruler, which was a little tricky with this tab in the way, so maybe it would be better with a flatter ruler in future. I'm looking at the paper more closely now, and I think that this inside is actually the good side of the paper to paint on, which I suppose would make sense, that the paper, the outside of the roll, would be the bad side, and then it'd be protected on the inside. I might just curl this way, flatten it like this for a moment, and then draw my lines on the bad side. Since we do have those ripped edges that can be a little delicate at the end, I might give it a little more length than I need, especially because I have more length than I know what to do with at this end. It seems especially tricky to start off, but once you get going, first piece of A4 paper, which is going to need a little bit of flattening. Now I can just move along and cut the rest of them. I think I'm going to just wrap my paper up to keep it nice and protected. And it seems to have stayed pretty clean. And put it back in the box for storage. So I want to make sure it doesn't damage and dent so easily. And just like that, here's my paper. I was filming this, so I didn't want to screw up on camera and also this is my first time ripping it. So I think because of that, it took longer than it needed to, but it actually is a very quick and easy process. The paper rips very nicely, way better than I thought it would. And you have the ease of choosing your different sizes of paper. Like this one was a little larger than I needed it, so I can still cut this down to A4, but I quite like this square and I thought I'll just leave it like this until I needed A4, or maybe I want more of an odd size or an A5 and then some smaller bits for bookmarks. I do really like the versatility of it because of that. I also really like the ripped edge look and having this more natural end to the paper. And I'm very happy with my purchase, having the cheaper paper and a lot of it on hand, and for all those other reasons I mentioned. Now that I've opened it, I am very excited to get on with a lot of paintings this year, next year, and I think this will last me a long time. So the buying of the giant roll of paper has the thumbs up approval from me, and I would certainly recommend it to anyone else who doesn't like to have to buy paper often and goes through a lot of it. It is certainly cheaper and more versatile, I think, to buy it this way. You are, of course, limited to just the one paper type, and that's not a drawback for me because, like I said, I only like one paper type and I don't really need to experiment anymore. I don't want to try anything else. I like hot pressed Arches 100% cotton paper. Thanks very much for being here. I hope this was fun or interesting for you to see. I am very excited for this new chapter of my paper processes going forward. I think another thing I like about this is just feeling a little more involved with the painting process and the experience of cutting my own paper and choosing a size. Now I'm going to get my paper ready for my few commissions I have to work on this month. And I have many exciting ideas for new paintings and stuff in future, so stay tuned for that. And I hope you have a lovely rest of your week or month until I talk to you again in my next video. Goodbye!